I'm Katie. I'm a junior, and I'm a psychology major as well. And so I have a little insight on social psychology and the thought processes and cognitions behind decision making. So basically, the main idea of decision making, and just as human beings in general, we like to maintain a positive self concept. We also like, as individuals, consistency in our actions. So when we decide to do something that goes against what we believe is right or what harms our positive self concept, it causes a confusion or imbalance or discomfort in our minds, and it's called dissonance. So an example of cognitive dissonance is when you do something that goes against your moral values. For example, if you're smoking and you like to view yourself as a healthy person who makes good decisions in the long run, and you're a smoker, and then you learn that smoking cigarettes is actually really bad for you, you have this dissonance in your head, like, wait, I am a healthy person, I like to do things that are good for me, but I'm smoking and supposedly this is bad for me. So you have two options. You can either change your actions and decide, well, I'm going to stop smoking because I'm a healthy person who likes to do things that are good for me in the long run. Or you can change your schema, which is your self-concept, your self-schema, and you would change that to form to your actions. So rather than saying, I'm a healthy person who likes to do things that are positive in the long run for me, it would be more like, well, I'm a positive person who likes to relax, and every once in a while I like to smoke a cigarette. So this whole idea of cognitive dissonance is one of the main factors in decision making. Will our decisions reflect who we believe we are, who we say we are? An example of this after you make a decision is called post-decision dissonance. And so after you make a decision, you realize that it probably wasn't the best decision to make. And you decide that it's okay. So you try and make your decision look better than it actually is. This eliminates dissonance by not exactly changing your schema, but basically kind of lying to yourself, saying that that decision is more like something you would do. So entrepreneurs, or for example, car salesmen, know this takes place. In order to be a good salesman, you have to be able to, in a way, manipulate these cognitions of people. An example of doing this kind of sneakily is saying, when you are selling a car, you say, I'm going to give you this car for $3,000. And the person who wants to buy the car is like, great, I'm totally going to pay for this car. It's only $3,000. You go behind and you decide, like, oh, wait, this needs to be more money because I know this person wants to buy that car for $3,000. Let's see if I can raise it a little bit. So you come back and you say, oh, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. It's actually $4,500. And so this person is in a situation with this dissonance. It's like, I didn't want to pay this much money for a car, but I already agreed to buy it, but it's more now. So people who buy cars will sometimes, if they're not a very smart customer, will buy the car and say, well, it was going to be for $3,000. Oh yeah, but then later I did pay like $1,500 more. So, but that's fine. That's kind of like a post-decision dissonance as well. Now I'm going to talk about the psychology behind decision-making in groups. Group decision-making is a little bit different than individual decision-making because there are more people, it changes the way you think and the way you make decisions. An example of this is diffusion of responsibility. A classic example is when you're in middle school and the teacher assigns a group project. Half of the students are super excited because that means they probably don't have to do as much work. When you're alone doing a project, you have to do all of the work. And then there's one person who ends up doing most of the work. This diffusion of responsibility happens in large groups because people assume that the person to the right or to the left is going to do what they would do if they were alone. Another example of this is studies that have been done where people would sit on the side of a sidewalk and scream out in pain or sadness. And the results actually showed that when people were in large groups, neither of the people on either side would respond. But when someone was alone, because there's no other responsibility to put on anyone else, they would help the person. Of course, it was just an experiment. No one was actually in pain, but it was a great way to observe how, as the amount of people go up in a situation, the individual responsibility goes down. This is a negative correlation between responsibility and people. Another part of group decision making is called process loss, which, because there are so many people in the group sort of loses its way and kind of loses what they're there for, and a lot of times not a lot of things get done. This can also be seen in a middle school project when everyone in the group is just kind of hanging out, not doing a lot of work because there is that diffusion of responsibility. So yeah, that is the decision making in groups. There's also group polarization, which is the same idea as mob mentality, if you have heard that term, where because there are a bunch of people in the group, one person spurts out an idea, and because of the energy and the diffusion of responsibility, again, groups are more likely to do insane or ridiculous things that they wouldn't do if they were alone. So this can be seen in not on a mob level, but on a group just doing work level. They will do things that are more strayed from their original goal than if they were alone and there was more responsibility for each individual. So yeah, that is the decision making behind groups and individuals. Psychology.
Well, yay! Thanks for coming, Katie.
No problem.
And say hi to management class.
Hi, management class. Good luck. Gonna do great.